Hello everyone, back again with me, Sir Julius. So for today, we will learn about quadratic equation. So without further ado, let us start our lesson today. So we can use the quadratic equation in our everyday life. For the first one, we can use it in sport. Have you ever seen javelin throw or shot put in athletic championship? Both of it is using the concept of quadratic equation. Not only that sport, but we can use the concept of quadratic equation in golf too. So we can use the quadratic equation in military. Like we see in the picture, it is a javelin missile. So the movement of javelin missile is using the concept of quadratic equation. Now for the next one, we've already learned about it in 8th grade in physics class. So we have a motion that called accelerated motion. So when we see the formula of accelerated motion, we can see the quadratic equation in there. Not only in physics, but we can learn the quadratic equation in economy. When we try to find the maximum profit of something, we can see in the picture that the equation is quadratic equation. So a lot of things in our everyday life using quadratic equation. Okay, so what is quadratic equation? The name quadratic comes from quad, meaning square, because the variable gets squared. So the highest exponent in the variable is 2. It is also called an equation of degree 2. So we can see the standard form of quadratic equation: ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. A, b, and c are known values, and a can't be 0. And x is the variable, of course. Now, so how we find the solution to the quadratic equation? So the solutions to the quadratic equation are where it is equal to 0. They are also called roots. So there are several methods to find the solution to quadratic equation. So for today, we will learn about the first method. It is factoring quadratics method. So now if we have quadratic equation with the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a equals to 1, we can write it as x squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Now, if the quadratic equation is in that form, the factor will be x plus p times x plus q equals to 0. Now we can prove it. X squared plus bx plus c equals to x plus p times x plus q. So we can solve it. X squared plus bx plus c equals to x squared plus bx plus qx plus p times q. Or we can write it x squared plus bx plus c equals to x squared plus p plus q times x plus p times q. So we can conclude it that b equals to p plus q and c equals to p times q. So now we will see the example of it. So find the solution of x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals to 0. Okay, so now we have the example x squared minus 3x minus 4. Because the a is equals to 1, the factor will be x plus p times x plus q. We have b equals to negative 3. B is p plus q. Meanwhile, c is negative 4. C is P times Q. So we must find the value of P and Q. So we have this one, P times Q. The answer will be negative 4. So we must find the factor of negative 4. So we have negative 1 times 4, and then 1 times negative 4, and we have negative 2 times 2. So now we will see the P plus Q of each factor. So minus 1 times minus 1 plus 4, we have 3. 1 minus 4, negative 3. And then negative 2 plus 2 equals to 0. So now the value of B is negative 3. So the correct factor will be negative 3, this one, because it's the same. So the factor of that equation is 1 and negative 4. So we have P equals to 1, Q equals to negative 4. So we have x plus 1 times x minus 4. Okay, so we can write it x plus 1 x minus 4 equals to 0. So the solution of or the roots will be x plus 1 equals to 0. So we have x equals to negative 1, and then x minus 4 equals to 0. So x equals to 4. So we have the solution of it, negative 1 and 4. Okay, so we go to our next example, x squared minus 5x equals to 0. So we have the factor of it will be x plus p times x plus q, and then b equals to negative 5. So p plus q equals to negative 5, and then c equals to 0. So the product of it will be 0. So now we will find the factor. So the product of it will be 0. So one root of it must be 0, because the product of it will be 0. And p plus q equals to negative 5. So we can conclude that another root is negative 5, because 0 times negative 5 equals to 0, and then 0 times negative 5 equals to negative 5. So we can write it x plus 0, and then times x negative 5. So we have x times x negative 5 equals to 0. So we can write it x equals to 0, and then x minus 5 equals to 0. So x equals to 5. So this is the roots of it. So we can write it, roots is 0 and 5. Okay, but we can write it in another steps. So we can write it, we can factorize this equation. So we have x squared minus 5x equals to 0. Because the x is the same, we can write it as x times x minus 5 equals to 0. So we can conclude that x equals to 0, and then x minus 5 equals to 0. So x equals to 5. So we have the roots of it will be 0 and 5. Okay, so now what if the a is not equal to 1? So the form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a is not equal to 1. So we have several steps. The first one is find the product of ax squared with c. So we have ax squared times c equals to bx times qx, and then we must change the bx to bx plus qx. So we have bx equals to bx plus qx, and then after that we must factorize over two terms, and the last one we must find the solution. So we will see it in our example. So the example, find the solution of 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. For our next example, the a is not equal to 1, so we have 2. So the first step, we must find the product of this one and this one. So ax squared times negative 5. So we have 2x squared times negative 5 equals negative 10x squared. After it, we must find px and qx. So bx equals to bx plus qx. Bx we have 3x. So we must find the value of px and qx. So the product will be negative 10x. So negative 10, we have 2 times negative 5. And then 5, and then negative 2. And we have 10, negative 1, or 1, and negative 10. So we can find it, the px plus qx in here. This one is negative 3, this one is 3, 10 minus 1, 9, 9 minus 10, negative 9. So we have 3x. So 3x will be this one. Okay. So we can write it px as 5x minus 2x. After it, we can write it in here. So we must change the value of plus 3x into this one. So this one we can factor it, x 2x plus 5, and then minus 1 times 2x plus 5. Because 2x plus 5 is the same, we can make it 2x plus 5 times this one, x minus 1. So we have this. So we can write it equals to 0. So we can write it 2x plus 5 equals to 0. And x minus 1 equals to 0. So x equals to 1. And this one, 2x equals to negative 5. So we have the value of x equals to negative 5 over 2. So our next example is we must find the solution of 2x squared minus 10x equals to 0. So if we have this c equals to 0, we can factor it. So we have 2x squared minus 10x equals to 0. So this one, the x is the same, so we can write it in front of it. And 2 and 10. 2 and 10, we can find the greatest common divisor. So 2 and 10. So we can write it 2 in here. So we have this x, negative 10 divided by 2, 5, equals to 0. So we can write it 2x equals to 0. So x will be 0. This is the first root. And then x minus 5 equals to 0. X equals to 5. So the roots of it will be 0 and 5. Okay, so that's it for today. I will see you again next time. Bye.